Hi, good morning. Welcome to Trains Newswire Online. I'm Jim Wrinn.
And I'm Brian Schmidt.
We're here to talk about this week's news. But first off, I want you all to know that Brian and I did not call each other to schedule our wardrobes today.
We actually texted each other to do it.
No, we did not. We did not. But anyway, here we are in our matching gray Trains dress shirts. This is the only one I had clean today.
That's my excuse.
So that was my excuse.
Yeah.
So I used the rest of them at the RSI, the Railway Supply Institute show in Omaha earlier this week.
Yeah, we were both out traveling this week.
You were out traveling too.
You were looking at suppliers. I was talking to historians. I was with the Lexington Group in Transportation History. It's a group that gets together some academics, some closeted rail fans, I guess you could say, that talk about all kinds of transportation, but mainly railroads. And we were up in Duluth and Superior this past week.
Good turnout.
It was a good get together. Lots of good connections for us, I think. Good papers too. We heard a lot about railroading in the past, which is what this group is about.
You'll see a lot of stories come out of this because usually it's a good place for us to mine story ideas. So
absolutely,
look for that.
We'll
the RSI show was good too.
Good.
A lot of suppliers. This is the show that's pretty much from the rail up. There's another show that we go to that we like to say is from the rail down, ARIMA. And that's about track and infrastructure and signaling and all that stuff. But these guys were really fun. If you wanted a locomotive battery, you could buy one. If you wanted a full locomotive, you could rent one or buy one. So there's just all sorts of rolling stock and equipment.
You got to be careful though when you're there. You got to make sure whatever you buy fits in your carry-on to get
and
home.
Make sure that you don't sign up for something too big. That's not good at all. So let's talk about the week's news. So you were here more of the week than I was, but what hit you? What struck your fancy in the newswire this week?
In the freight side of it, the city of Rochelle has a municipally owned railroad down there in Illinois. Yeah, down there where our train's webcam is at. Can't see the short line though from the webcam.
Illinois
but the city just got a new grant for about $3 million to do some expansion on the rail line. I find this significant because what Rochelle has done is it's positioned itself in a post-manufacturing economy. And it says we're going to build this infrastructure and whatever business wants to come to us can come to us. So the short line connects with both UP and BNSF. They have lots of warehousing, cold storage, but then they have an ethanol plant, and then they also have silica sand processing, like frac sand processing. So all these businesses have come because the city has positioned itself for better rail access, that the customers don't have to decide which railroad they're on, which is fantastic. It's certainly working out for the city, which is growing. It's just west of Chicago, so that helps position it too.
That's a cool development. Yeah, I'd like to go down and see that. That's pretty easy for us to get to.
It's about 2 hours or so from the office. Yeah, it's not awful, and it's a good day of train watching too down there.
Nice.
So another thing to talk about is SEPTA. They're back to full schedule this week. They had some problems earlier this summer with those Silverliner 5 cars, some cracks on the trucks and the bolsters. They're back running with full schedule. Equipment's still a little tight, I understand, but they're back to running a full schedule again, which is good news for the commuters down there that don't have to find alternate means as much anymore. Steve has a feature story coming up. Is that December?
December
issue.
Steve Sweeney was in Philadelphia just a couple of weeks ago for a positive train control seminar, and while he was there, he visited our friends at SEPTA, and he's got a great report coming up in the next issue.
Well, we'll look forward to that, and I hope all the readers do too. One more thing I wanted to talk about is Hurricane Matthew coming up into Florida just today. So there's not going to be a whole lot of news out today, I don't think. We'll know what happens towards the end of the day probably, and tomorrow as it moves its way up the coast. But this seems like it's a worst case scenario for everybody on the coast because it doesn't look like it's going to make landfall. So most of it's going to be out over the water, still not really lose a lot of strength, and just kind of move up the seaboard that way. So we'll see what happens. There's a lot of railroads, of course, down there. We wish them well. We know that NS and CSX have both put in some special operating plans to keep their people and their equipment safe. And I believe Amtrak is starting to shut down operations ahead of the storm as well. So we'll keep you posted with what develops out of that.
Really interesting to see what kind of damage happens on that. Of course, there's always the wind damage and then there's the water damage. So you never know which one's going to be the worst.
No, absolutely. I think we learned that with Sandy that the water is proving to be the long-term headache for the Northeast from that storm. And we'll see of course there aren't too many subway tunnels in the South to worry about like there was in New York. So we'll see what comes out of that.
That's good to hear.
What do you have for us?
The thing that caught my eye this week, of course, there was the sale of a sheriff's sale. Very unusual. Never happens. I've never seen it happen before. I'm sure it has. But there was a sheriff's sale in Oregon at the Wairika Western, California. What am I thinking about? I'm thinking about the locomotive's past life in Oregon. But Wairika Western 19, logging 282, sold at sheriff's auction for an unpaid lien. And the winning bidder was none other than Jerry Joe Jacobson, the Age of Steam Roundhouse in Ohio. Large collection of steam locomotives there in a private setting. And the locomotive will be well cared for there. So it's going to a good home.
Is it operable now, or does it need work, or where does it stand?
If I remember right, I think it's still got some time left on it. I was out there in 2006 with Dave Crosby, and we went out and photographed it and wrote it, and I think it's still got a little bit more time left.
Wonderful.
On it. Yeah.
How does this fit into Jerry's collection, or the Age of Steam collection overall? Does it duplicate anything he has? Is it a new avenue for him?
I know he's got similar wheel arrangements, but I'm sure he doesn't have many West Coast sort of locomotives, and this one's definitely been identified as a Western locomotive. It was a Cloud for years. It was Wairika for a long time. It was at the Oregon Pacific and Eastern for a long time, and of course it gained its fame back in the 1970s. It was in the movie Emperor of the North with Ernest Borgnine, and so everyone knows it as Shack's locomotive. That was the character.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So and then Amtrak is starting a magazine again, which they had years ago. This one is going to be called The National. It'll be an onboard magazine for its customers. I haven't seen a copy yet, but I'm anxious to see one and see what's all in it.
It seems like a good opportunity for Amtrak to promote it. They've run that Northeast magazine, Arrive, for quite a while, but this seems like a great opportunity for Amtrak to promote its nationwide offerings and all the destinations that it serves, because once you've got somebody on a train, they're more likely to come back to the train.
Right, and they've all got time, and it's a great way to promote their brand, and people will take them home and show them around to their friends. So a good move there. And of course, then the last thing is UP's 844 schedule is finally out. They're leaving Cheyenne next week on the 13th, and then they're making their way down to Memphis by the 22nd, and then returning to Cheyenne just in time to go trick-or-treating on Halloween. So.
Fantastic. We have trivia from last week that's a carryover.
We have a trivia from last week that's a carryover.
So the question last week was, there is a crossing guard tower in Grand Rapids, Michigan under restoration. What two railroads did it protect back then? And the answer, of course, was the Pierre Marquette.
In Grand Trunk Western?
And the Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I would have lost.
Yeah.
I would have missed it.
Contributor Brian Smith did a good exclusive for us on that last week. The correct answer, I guess, was Walt Digit. Walt, send an email to Steve. You can get him newswire@trainsmag.com, and we'll get you your prize, whatever was offered. I don't recall because I was off in Duluth last week.
I'm sure that Steve promised him the bank, the whole world.
Yeah,
so we'll follow up with that.
Yeah. At least we have a recording of it.
Yes.
So, and do you have trivia for this week for us?
I do. Go back into Newswire and take a look and tell us the name of the town where 844 will visit on its upcoming trip that's most associated with bacon. You all love bacon, I know. So go back and check the schedule and see what it may be, and then post it down below in the answer comment section down below, and we will pick a winner at random from those folks who were smart enough to get the right answer.
Well, a while back when you bet me you couldn't work bacon into Newswire, I'm glad I did not take that bet.
We always are looking for ways to work bacon into Newswire.
Fantastic.
All right.
Anything else?
I think I'm good.
That's all I have.
Everybody a good week and a good weekend, and enjoy Newswire, and we'll look to see you next week.
Well, what are you talking about today?
We got choo-choos to talk about. What do you think about that?
Choo-choo.
Choo-choos.